Another issue I know we want to talk about is, besides these hydroelectric dams, you were also telling us that China's involved in a lot of illegal gold mining in Bolivia. What's the story of that?
So there is also the exploitation of rivers in order to get gold in different parts of Bolivia. And the fact that they are using a lot of chemicals that are really polluting the environment. And that, again, whenever local people have pointed this out to authorities and they have tried to seek some justice from this gold mining, there is hardly ever, if any, judicial action on the case. This has also led to a whole new. So I feel like the people most affected every time with this type of stories about Chinese work in Bolivia is always indigenous communities that have had their health affected because the water that they drink is contaminated. There's been a lot of them that have dared to speak up. One of them is Alex Vilca. I highly recommend people to look him up and look at his work. And then as soon as they speak up about these issues, about the fact that there are Chinese companies and workers that are doing illegal gold mining in different rivers in the different parts of Bolivia, he immediately gets death threats, and just his safety is always a concern for us. So I know that he has already asked international institutions to take action about this. I don't know if this has actually happened, but this is yet again kind of same narrative, just on a different issue. And indigenous communities always end up being the ones most affected by it. Not the only ones, but the ones the immediate damage goes to them.
Is this gold mining illegal because of the way they're polluting the rivers, or are they allowed to do the actual looking for gold in the rivers? Like, what's happening here?
It is because they are polluting the rivers, but it's also because of the region where they're doing this. They're doing this in areas that are quote unquote protected areas, and these areas are not open for any sort of exploitation, even if they were done with the proper environmental care, which I don't think there is such a thing with mining in rivers. But even if that was the case, it's not legal to do it in this territory, especially when some of these territories are already recognized as being owned by indigenous people, because of our constitution, and specific areas of the country are recognized as so. So again, when this happens and the jurisdiction and the laws are there that said that this is not legal, that there should be heavy, like very determined legal action taken against this, it just goes nowhere. So there's a big complicity between the Bolivian state and Chinese initiatives. I don't know what to call them, delinquencial, like this is not legal at all. Not only does the state benefit and protect formal legal Chinese investment in Bolivia, they also, by not doing anything legally against them, they end up protecting Chinese illegals activities in our indigenous areas and protected natural areas as well.
So the government knows about these gold mining activities?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They know. There's been a lot of reports on it, and there's also have been, again, legal actions taken by indigenous people, especially when your body is already showing symptoms of being heavily sick because of water contamination. This is when legal action has been taken by different groups. I cannot remember the name exactly right now, but still the government just does nothing.
So I guess this ultimately leads to the question of what can the Bolivian people do? Because obviously the government uses the language that it is, protecting the environment, it's protecting indigenous people. The whole movement towards socialism is based on, that idea of helping the people.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's not happening. So what is the protest movement doing?
So what we're doing and what we should be doing are two things that meet at some points, but there's so much work still left to be done. What we are doing currently, and I can speak for Standing Rivers for Ríos de Pie that I am a part of, we are really trying to gain more knowledge about these issues and work with indigenous communities and learn from them, because they should be the ones leading this. I think we have so much to learn from them, especially a movement as young as we are. And at the same time, we're trying to do the international exposure of these issues, like I am doing talking to you right now. We're trying to raise awareness about what is happening. But what is even more important and what needs to be done, and I think there's a lot of work to be done in Bolivia, is for us to realize that fires or the construction of dams, hydroelectric centers, or gold mining. They are not separate issues. They're all interconnected. And they're not only interconnected in the sense that there is obviously Chinese investment causing all of this, but also because all of these things eventually, and not even eventually, are already affecting the Bolivian environment and our livelihoods. So I think it's very important that movements like ours continue doing this work of raising awareness and supporting the people that are opposing this. But I also think that the international community, if they want to keep living standards that everyone is talking about right now, because so many international entities are talking about protecting the environment, about rights, about action against climate and global warming, the fact that they talk about this so much yet do nothing in terms of not necessarily opposing Chinese investment in Bolivia, which I think is something that should be done, but even just supporting the people that are already working in these issues in Bolivia, giving a voice to the people, to the indigenous leaders, to environmental activists, journalists that are exposing these issues, and even more supporting them in moments of extreme crisis, like the one we have right now with the fires in Bolivia. These are very tangible things that the international community could be doing and is not doing. And I think that having opportunity to talk to journalists like you and talking about these issues is already such a great help for us because, like I mentioned, it often goes unnoticed. And there's not many people doing this job either.
Well, the international community is more than just, major Western powers. What is being done to create a coalition of activist groups in different Latin American countries who are also facing these kind of challenges of totalitarian governments that are backed by China?
I think a lot more should be done. I'm going to admit that in the case of Standing River specifically, we don't really have had the chance yet, but we want to work with activists from other countries in Latin America on this specific issue. But I think even just learning from, for example, we really admired the Hong Kong movement. We have been learning from the distance, but yeah, we need to create a lot more alliances. And I think even with African countries and activists in Africa, who I often feel like their stories are so similar to us because it's the same time of new colonization coming to our countries, taking advantage of such weak rule of law and just doing whatever they want with our natural resources.
Yeah, Jhanisse, what you're talking about makes me think about, a lot of international attention right now is focused on climate change, but it's kind of a very narrow focus in terms of like some of these other environmental issues that are, and I'm thinking about, the Biden administration talking about how they want to work with China on climate change, right? And at the same time, the Chinese regime is not just incredibly polluting their own country, but going out and, extracting natural resources from Bolivia, from other countries in Africa, Latin America, polluting them, like they're taking all the fish from the oceans, like all of these things that they're doing. But if we only focus on the climate change part of environmentalism, it's like we're going to ignore.
It's like going to El Chapo to ask him to help stop drugs in America.
Yeah, it's not one or the other. I think climate change and global warming is something so real that we're already living. But the fact that there is so much attention to this, yet little attention or response to crisis, like when we have hectares burning in Bolivia. And not only is there no immediate response to the emergency, but also no one holds anyone accountable. People are just getting away with ecocide in my country for 3 years in a row now. It's really stunning. So all of these speeches about global warming and taking action to protect the environment and hopefully grow biodiversity, which is one of the main things that we need to do in order to fight this global warming, it means nothing if you don't do anything also on the real issues that are happening in countries like mine right now. And it's what the Biden administration says and what many other institutions and governments have said in regards of this is so, this already, it's just pure politics. It's not really a real interest to change things, but the people that are really trying to change things to me, at least in my country, are indigenous leaders that are opposing to this Chinese investments and constructions that are don't damaging us so much. So I really hope that at least from this, more people can hear their stories, get to know them, follow them. Alex Vidka is an indigenous leader that I really, really admire, as well as Marcial Fabricano. I'll try to write down the names in the comments when this is up. But I hope more people can hear about them and support them. Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest contributor to climate change is all the hot air from politicians.
Oh, man.